Welcome to Docusign Rooms Basic Training. And I'm going to show you just some basics of using Docusign to manage your transactions. So this is the dashboard that you will see when you log into Docusign, and you should see your transaction rooms down below. Now, because I'm the administrator, I see everybody's transaction rooms, but you would just see your own. And what you're going to do typically when you're starting a new transaction is you're going to go to rooms. And so you're going to click on that button, and it's going to take you to all of your rooms. And I have set this up so I'm only seeing my rooms. So these are my rooms that I have. And so what I'm going to do is show you how to create a room and how to work with a room and documents and things of that sort with a room. So to start out, you're going to have a transaction, and it's going to be either a purchase transaction or a listing transaction. So let's go with a purchase transaction first. So you were working with a buyer. If I come over here to the right upper corner, I see new. And so I click on that, and it's going to allow me to add a new room. And so it's coming up with information for the room. And I could use public records. I could autofill for this room, but I'm not really going to do that for the time being because I don't know what they're going to be buying. So I'm gonna name the room. Now, typically when I'm working with a buyer, I'm going to name the room their name. So since I'm doing a test here, maybe I'll name this room Jim Test 1, and so that's the name of the room. My role is typically going to be an agent or broker in the transaction, and so I can pick what my role is, and then I can pick the side, and I'm going to do a buy or a purchase. If I wanted, I could upload a picture of my client. Notice these little red asterisks. That means that you are required to choose these items before you can set up a transaction. You do not have to upload a photo. And so you just come up here and hit save. And now we've created a room, a transaction room. Now, when we go into a room, the first thing that we're going to see is the detailed tab. And this is where you're going to fill in basic details. And if you see right here, it says required to close. So anything with a red asterisk means that it's required to close, to be able to close. So one of the things, once we get an address, property address, you will need to enter that in here, and the postal code, city and state, and of course the country is already supplied. You're going to need to put the listing date, if it's a listing, the offer date, the contract date, contract amount, and then down here, I think that may be all that we have to put in to close the room. Now, there's additional information that you can put in here that will be important to you, but that's all you need to be able to close. Now, typically what we're working with are documents. We want to be able to do this purchase transaction. So if I go to the documents tab and I come over here to add, so this is how I add documents to my room. So if I click the add button, I can add them from my computer, from zip forms, from Box or Dropbox or Google Drive. I have several choices. Typically, I'm going to add them from zip form. So I'm going to choose zip forms. And what it's going to do is pull up it's going to link with zip form. First thing it wants to do is link a room. Well, I don't want to link a room because I don't have an existing room in zip form. So I'm going to create one. And I'm going to create the room the same name in zip form as it is in Docusign. So my new room here is Gym Test 1. And that's and it's going to be a purchase. And we select the property type, residential, commercial, whatever it might be. Typically, it's going to be residential for us. And then you're going to create that transaction in zip forms. Now we can add zip form forms. We're going to do that using the zip form library. So we click on that. And if we're going to add it, these are the 4 forms that are BLC specific forms: an addendum, a listing transfer form, exclusive listing disclosure, and temporary off market. Those are all just forms that are unique to the BLC, but typically we're going to use the Indiana residential forms, which is IARRES, Indiana Association of Realtors residential forms. So we go there, and it's going to pull up all of the zip forms for a residential transaction. So typically what we're going to want if we're doing a purchase is we're going to want a purchase agreement. So we just scroll down here until we find a purchase agreement. Purchase agreement. Now we have 2 kinds. We have a purchase agreement for improved property and for unimproved property. So if we click that, that adds our purchase agreement. Now, if we need any other forms that might be associated with the purchase, such as a as-is addendum or any of those other forms, we could add those at this same time just by clicking the button. So if I want the as-is addendum, I just come up here to find that as-is addendum to purchase agreement. I can add that in here. And now I add that by clicking the add button. And now it adds those 2 forms to my room. Now to edit the form, all I need to do is click on the form. And it takes me out to zip form. And after it loads the form, then it works just like any other zip form transaction in terms of how you fill out the form. So it's loading the purchase agreement here. My internet connection isn't as fast as it could be. Now you can use the MLS Connect in order to pre-populate this form. So if you click on that, it will ask you for the MLS name, listing type, and then you can put in the listing ID, and you could pull all the information from an existing listing if you want. Otherwise, you're going to fill in all the information. So listing broker, selling broker, and et cetera. And you're going to, since you're the selling broker, you're going to put Realty World Indy. And you're going to put our office code, which is APRN01. And then you're going to put your name. And you're going to put your MIBOR code. Mine is 21197, and so forth. You're going to go through and then fill out the purchase agreement according to the information or the offer that you're going to make. Now, once you've done all your work on the purchase agreement, there's one more step, and that is to save what you just did. So you come up here, you hit save. It now saves that document in zip forms. We can now go up here and hit this big X in the upper right. And it says, okay, if you've made changes to this form without saving, return to the form and select save button above the form. So it does give you the opportunity to go back to the form and save if you forgot to save. Otherwise, you're going to hit continue because we saved it. And so now we have our documents right here. Now, there's a number of things that we can do with rooms. Okay, so first of all, we can add folders and things of that sort. We can select different forms. When we hit select, then there's different things we can do. We can copy it, we can move it, we can email it, we can create an envelope for electronic signature, we can archive it, we can trash that form, or we can review it. So there's just a variety of things that we can do with forms once we have them in here. Most often what you're going to do is put a form in, edit it, and then send it off for signature. Now, in addition to that, we do have a tasks tab in here. And so if you click on the task tab, it allows you to add tasks to your room, things that you might want to do. So this is, you can create your own task list, or we do have some task lists. So if you click on add, you can enter a task list name, you can enter a description for it, due date, and then add all the specifics about that particular task list. You're certainly welcome to add the tasks in there, and you have the ability to sort them and do different types of tasks. You could attach a task list. If you come up here and choose that option, then you're going to see some task lists in here that are available to you. The ones that we use are RW Indy. So we have one for purchase, one for closed, one for just listed, one for pending listing. And these are optional. You do not have to use these, but if you do use them, so I check, I want to use the RW Indy purchase, what it will do is create a task list for me, and it will have certain forms that are required for the purchase, such as the office disclosure policy and a purchase agreement and things of that sort. And so I have to then upload those. That reminds me I need to upload those different documents. And it gives me a task list of different things that need to be done during a purchase transaction. So you can use that task list or not. It's totally up to you whether or not you use task lists. So let's go back to documents. One thing that we can do here is we can add people to the transaction. And when you add someone to the transaction, you're going to invite them to the transaction. They do not have to actually do anything other than that. They can ignore your invitation. You can add them to the room without them accepting it. But that's one way you can put people in. Envelopes are going to be electronically signed documents. And so if you send a document out for signature, then it's going to show there that it's out for signature and what the status is of it. So if we come back to documents here, so we've got a purchase agreement, and notice that when I did that task list, it added some documents for me to put in there. So one of the things I need to do is do a purchase agreement. That needs to be one of the required forms that I'm going to use. And it's not going to let me move up there. If I can do it like this. Now, at any rate, you can add this document up here. So if you do the task list, you probably want to do it like this, where you upload the task list first, and then you can click to add the document. So here's, I'm adding my purchase agreement and maybe even my as-is addendum. So I'm assigning that. And so now I've got those in there as assigned in that particular area. Okay, and those are PDFs. Okay, so coming back here to my document, If I need to edit it, I just simply click into the document, and it pulls it up here in my transaction room. A little slow, and now I can edit my document. Any changes that I make, I just choose save, and it will save them for me. Now, at the end of your transaction, so for instance, if you choose not to use a checklist, at the end, one of the things that I want you to do, or what I want you to do during the whole transaction process, is upload all the relevant documents. So when you get an accepted purchase offer, upload the accepted purchase agreement along with any counter offers. You want to upload your seller's disclosure signed by the buyer, and then any documents that you handled during the closing process. And then one of the things that you can do is at the end, you're going to have closing documents. You can have the title company email those documents to you in a digital format, and then you can load those directly to the room. Just title them closing docs. To add a document like that that's on your computer, you would just simply go to your computer and then go to wherever the form is. So if you use Dropbox, you could, I use Dropbox, and one of the things that I do in Dropbox is that I set up different file folders for my buyers and sellers and et cetera. But I can add those documents here. So I could have the signed seller's disclosure and et cetera. I can add those here, or I can just upload them as a group. Now, once I've completed my transaction, one of the things I'm going to do is go up here under actions, and you're going to submit this for review. So since I have a task submitted, I'm going to submit that task list for review. If I'm not using a task list, I'm just going to come up here and hit close room. When you request that a room be closed, remember you have to have all of the red asterisks filled out here on your detail page. But when you go to close a room, you hit close room, and then it's going to send me a request to review that room and close it. If you have, again, if you have task lists involved, you have to complete those task lists and submit those for review in order to close your transaction. And so, for instance, this purchase agreement that I've uploaded, it needs to now be reviewed, and I will get a notification to review documents. So it's just that easy to use Docusign Rooms. One other thing I want to show you that you can do to organize your transactions. If I go here to my, well, that's the room I just created, sorry. I've got another test room in here. Let me find it. Here we go. Got a test room here. And if I go to the documents tab of this one of the things that you can see is that I've set up different folders within this transaction. And so if I collapse them here, you can see what I've done. And so I've set up folders. So I've got a folder for my checklist. I've got a folder for property description, for listing documents, for purchase documents, for inspection documents, for closing documents, and then just for general room documents. And this allows me to organize myself. So if I need to find a document that has to do with the inspection, I can open that tab up and I'll see the inspection documents, and it prevents me from having to look through all of the other documents in here. And so it makes it a lot easier for me to be able to handle these items and these kinds of things. I can also come out here and rename or delete folders that I've created in this particular section here. I can come up here. I can add documents again from my computer and things of that sort. So I'm able to do those types of transactions within this part of the room. That's how you handle that. If there's any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be glad to help you out with specifics any way that I can. Thank you and have a great day.